What's up, BookTube? It's Leah Cooper, and today I'm bringing you my October reading wrap-up. This isn't going to be the best wrap-up ever. It's actually probably the worst reading month I've had all year, which is saying something, because I think I said that in September, but I'm pretty sure October was worse. I only read one book with, like, my eyes. I think everything else... Maybe two, because like technically I finished 3 things in the first week of the month that I'd mostly read in September, but they get counted in October because I finished them in October. But for the most part, I basically just read one thing with my eyes and then a bunch of audiobooks. Because I'm stressed out working in school, one thing I like to do is read at work, like read on my breaks at work, and I haven't been able to do that for fun. I've been like devoutly dedicating that time to reading for school, which is depressing because the things I'm reading for school aren't good. Like, objectively, a couple of them aren't good. And then on top of that, they're just boring because I hate the classes I'm taking. They were a mistake and I can't get out of them. But it is what it is. So let's talk about the things that I did read. I think it was like an okay reading month, like the quality or my enjoyment of the things that I did get to. Nothing fantastic, nothing super stand out, but it was fine. That's the impression I have from last month. So I checked my spreadsheet, and I did finish 4 things in October. 2 audiobooks, 2 physical books. However, one of the audiobooks and one of the physical books were primarily read in September. So the first thing I finished was Of Wars and Memories and Starlight, which is a anthology from Elliot de Boudard. This I got as an ARC from NetGalley, and I have not done a review for it. I am going to do a review for it when I have some time. I just haven't been able to yet. I can say I like solidly gave this collection a 4. It would have been like a 4.5, except I really didn't care for the last 3 stories, particularly the last 2 stories, which was unfortunate. So I can't, I'm going to have to resist the urge to go into this here, but this is the bulk, like 90% of the story collection is science fiction short stories. I think most of them, or a lot of them, are set in Elliot de Boudard's shared universe that what is it? Like the Tea Master and the Detective or something like that. That novella, I think it's in that universe where you've got spacefaring, Vietnamese-inspired empire. You've got mine ships that are sentient and part of families that are birthed by people and then installed in ships. And you've got like just tons of different takes on this universe and these different playing with similar ideas. Even if some of the stories aren't intended to be in the same universe, you could read them as being in the same universe, just different times and different places. It was such a good collection. And then the last 2 stories take place in a different one of her universes, which on the surface seems like something that would be cool. It's like an alternative steampunk Earth with fallen angels and dragons, like that are people and houses and magic, but I just didn't like either of those stories. Especially the last one, and it was like such an unfortunate note for the collection to kind of end on. But like if you just like ignored those 2 sections, this collection would be 4.5 stars. It's really good. If you've never read Elliot de Boudard and you're thinking about it, that's why I picked it up, because I hadn't read her, but I wanted to. I was interested and curious, and I like short story collections. I would highly check it out. If you are already a fan of her, I think it's a must read because it's really good. So yeah. The next thing I finished was Red Rising by Pierce Brown. I listened to this on audiobook because a coworker suggested it. They thought I should read it, somewhat because they thought I'd enjoy it, somewhat because they just wanted to talk to me about it. And I was like, well, I don't have time to read it, like physically book with my eyes, but I was like, but I'll put it on my audiobook TBR, and if it pops up, I'll listen to it. And I did, so I did. It's a really long audiobook. It took me a while to get through. Yeah, it was a little over 16 hours, which is long for me. Again, though that is because I like to read middle grade on audiobook. But it was pretty long for me. But I got through it. I think I gave it like 3 stars. Oh, wow. I gave it 4 stars. Okay, so I think quality wise, story wise, it is 4 stars, but I won't be continuing with the series, and I'll tell you why. So, I thought this was like YA dystopian. It's not. It's adult sci-fi. Like, it's just adult sci-fi. There are some dystopian aspects to it because it is a totalitarian society, but it's not YA dystopian. I don't, like, that's the impression I got, because I remember this book was really popular, like, 2 or 3 years ago on BookTube. Everyone was reading it. And that's how they talked about it. Like, it was like another Hunger Games or something. And that's why I steered the fuck clear of it, because I'm not interested in that genre at all. It's not that. It's just, like, it's adult sci-fi with a fairly totalitarian government system. It's about a guy who's, like, a miner on Mars, and they live in a really like strict society, and he and his wife kind of break the law and they're punished for it, and she does this act of rebellion that gets her executed, and then he in his grief gets himself executed, but it's really just they're faking his death because they're going to genetically alter him and insert him into the upper echelons of this social system so that he can destroy the system from the inside out. It's the Matrix, but on Mars, and with like Greek, mostly Roman influences. And then the bulk of the book is actually just like this test thing, this game. It's like this field test for all these students at this academy. They've been broken into factions, and then you have to like play war games amongst themselves to see who will graduate on top. And he wants to graduate first in his class, so again he can rise in the society so he can destroy them. Okay, like it's the plot's real familiar. There's not, it's a pretty standard story. But it's, like, fine. It's clever enough. It's interesting enough that I was along for the ride for the whole thing. 2 things I don't like. The wife getting fridged. Not a fan of the trope. I kept hoping maybe she wouldn't actually be dead, because I hate that. I really, really hate that trope. It's so misogynistic. B, in the same note, I don't know if Pierce Brown is a misogynist or if he's got so much unchecked white male cis privilege that he just can't helping writing like a misogynist. But there's so much threat of an actual rape of female characters who are at the top of the society, and it never happens to the male characters, and the male characters are never threatened with rape. It's exclusively something aimed at the women who seem to have no agency to stop it or speak out against it. And then also there is a thread of homophobia running through this entire book. And the thing about it is like, it's fine if an author puts all those elements purposely into the book because they want to like make a statement or because they want to examine them or something. But these elements were just completely unexamined, which is why it makes me think they weren't examined, they weren't challenged, they weren't subverted, which makes me think they're just the subconscious prejudices of the author. Like, they're just part of his subconscious worldview when extrapolating society and how society works. And I don't like that. That's a big assumption to make, but that's just how it came across to me. And I'm not interested in reading more. Like, feel free to argue with me, but I don't care. The books are too long for me to like put more time and effort into them. I think they're fine plot and character wise, but like, man, there were just some There was some weird privilege shit happening in the world building that just felt like, like a person who's never faced the threat of being assaulted or raped, they just don't think about the sort of impacts it would have putting that into like as a structure of their society, because like they have so much privilege they've never had to think about it. It's just a thing that happens to other people. You know what I'm saying? So those are my thoughts on Red Rising. I think like craft wise it's a 4-star book, but I'd probably give it like a 3.5 because I don't like those elements. The next thing I finished in October was another audiobook, and that was The Grey King by Susan Cooper. This is the 4th book in her The Dark is Rising sequence, I think is what it's called. You'd think I'd know since I'm on the last book currently. I'm listening to the last book. This is a good one. It follows Will Stanton. He goes to Wales on a mission to find the Harp of Gold, I think is the object he's looking for. It's just him. The other kids, the oldest daughter is not named Susan. Her name is Jane. Lol, I completely bungled that in my last wrap up. But anyways, they're not in this book. They're in the last book, however. So this is Will. He goes to Wales and he meets a kid named Braun. And there's a lot of like local drama. I liked this one. I gave it 4 stars. I think the plot was just fun. Well, not fun, but it was like interesting. It was a good. It was just entertaining. I will say though, the one thing I really, 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 really hated is that there is like a villain in this character who attempts to rape Braun's mother. We find this out. Like, Braun's mother is said to have died or she ran away. And Will is talking to one of the locals who tells him the story of like how Braun's father met her and then who Braun's father actually is. It's not, and then like why she ran away. And it's because she was assaulted by this local guy, Pritchard. I can't remember his first name. I might be messing up his last name. Anyways, he's kind of like the villainish, oafish character in the book. Find out he like assaulted her and obviously didn't face any sort of punishments because I guess this was 1960. I mean, these books came out in like the late 70s. When was this one? When did this one come out? Let me double check that. Yeah, this one was published in 1975. And the boys are like 13 or 14. So like, let's say 1961, early 60s. And so he just like assaulted her and everyone knows. And he faced no punishment. She runs away, disappears, and no one's ever seen her again. And then at the end, Craddock Pritchard, that's his name. At the end, they confront Craddock Pritchard because he's like, he's being influenced by the dark, but he's not actually an agent of the dark. He's just too stupid to run the dark to like take him into the fold, but they're just kind of using him. And he starts raving about how Braun's father ruined things. Like, he would have taken Braun's mother and they would have lived happily ever after. Like, he could have just stolen her and kept her like property. Like, there was some weird, super misogynistic, patriarchal bullshit things. Like, I know it's 1960, but really? Oh, it was super gross. And also, wow, for a book that's really just aimed, I think, at like 10 to 12-year-olds, like, straight up story about an assault. Like, I was kind of shocked. I was kind of massively shocked at that. So I did not like those elements, and they did kind of ruin the end, but the rest of the book was pretty good. And it was definitely better than the last one. I'm currently listening to the last one, and it's kind of boring. Which is sad. Moving on to the last thing I read, because I've been blathering on too long for like how few books I read this month. The last thing I finished was Killing Gravity by Corey J. White. This is a Tor.com novella. I meant to read this in September, as part of Space Opera September. I didn't get around to it because I didn't get around to anything. And it was fine. Like, I gave it 3 stars. It wasn't fantastic. I don't feel compelled to continue. It was about a like psychic space witch. Okay, you know what it's about? Have you ever seen Firefly? It's pretend River didn't get like turned into a child in her brain, and also pretend she's not a genius, and pretend that her brother's her sister, and her sister is the one was also a psychic space witch, and got them out of captivity, but then they were separated, and River's been on the run ever since. That's the plot of Killing Gravity. So not that original, to be frank, which is fine. Like, stories don't have to be super original as long as they're like interesting or entertaining or you like the characters or whatever. And I think this one started out with some potential, but obviously the Space Witch character, whose name I can't, Mars? Yes, Mars. She encounters like a crew of salvagers because they come to salvage her ship, and then they take her on board, and then that's fine. Again, nothing we haven't seen before. However, like, all of the people on board just like, or the captain is just like instantly trusts her and like wants her to stay on board and wants her to be the member of the crew after like 2 pages. And I cannot believe that. Maybe I am just like such an untrusting person. Like, it takes me so long to like trust and befriend people that like insta trust friendship. Like, I'd lay down my life to keep you safe kind of stuff. I just don't buy it. But that was a problem for me in this book. Occasionally it can work if it's like done right. Like, I think Martha Wells's Murderbot books are a really good example of an author who manages to somehow capture really realistic feeling interactions between characters in a short span of time and in a short number of words. But that takes a lot of skill. And I think this book just didn't quite have that. It wasn't quite convincing enough. It missed the mark for me. So it was fine. 3 stars. An average read. I wouldn't dissuade people from reading it. I think if you are a fan of Firefly and you like that kind of like space witch on the run, evil corporation government group chasing them, check it out. Because I think this one has a lot more female characters and more diverse characters. The captain is I want to say like non-binary. They use they them pronouns, and they go for kind of like a non-gendered appearance, and one of the characters has prosthetics. Firefly had some diversity in it, now that I think about it. It wasn't just Nathan Fillion. But so I think if you like that sort of thing, it's worthwhile reading. I'm not going to continue with the series just because I didn't find it compelling enough, and I have so many other things to read. That I'm going to be really particular about what series I continue reading. Only doing the ones that are like really, really good. Not gonna just do whatever book 2s happen to follow the book 1s that I read. Anyways, I've rambled on long enough. Let me know down below if you've read any of these things, or you think about picking them up, or what your opinions of them were. I'd love to hear. And yeah, I don't think I'm going to do a TBR because I'm too busy in November. I still haven't decided. It's like November 2nd, and I still haven't decided if I'm even going to do NaNoWriMo. Also, I have like stuff that I need to get back to like my editor. Life is too busy. Tell me how you're doing, gentle viewers. How is your life going? How is your fall? Are you super busy and like tired? Have you already gotten sick? I got sick this past month too, which was just so much fun. Not as sick as last year. If you were here last year, I had like the flu from hell, where I had the flu for a month, and then like I did so much soft tissue damage to myself from coughing that I like had bruised ribs for the month after I had the flu. So I didn't get that sick, thank God. But I have already been sick once this year, just wonderful. Being sick, going to work, whatever. The customers probably got me sick anyways. Yeah, let me know how you're doing. I love to hear. One thing I do think I'm going to do is I think I'm going to try to participate in Tome Topple and just read 1 tome for Tome Topple. And maybe I'll release a like 90-second video about that when we're closer to Tim Topple. Yeah. Thanks for watching again. See you later.